your life is actually not defined by your yes. Your life is defined by your no. So you get married, you say yes on the altar. Well, you say no to dating. You say no to other priorities. You say, in some degree, I'm going to say no to my family and what my family wants. You say no sometimes to, well, I wanted to live here, but this job took us here. I have to say no to this. Like, it's just no after no after no. It's knowing that the more important a decision is to you and the more it aligns with your values, you're going to have a lot of no's, but all of those no's get you to the yes that you wanted to.
I'm Tiffany Souter, entrepreneur, wife, mom to 4 girls, and a woman figuring it out just like you. Come on, let's go build your life of and.
I don't think most women actually struggle to make decisions. I think we more struggle to hold them. Because the truth is, every real decision comes with a trade-off. And if you're not willing to accept that cost, you'll keep going back on it over and over again. And that's not confusion. What it really is, if we're honest, is avoidance. And the moment you accept the trade-off, the decision finally sticks. In last month's episode with Brian Kavicky, we dug really deep into guilt and what is the true cost of doing it all. In this episode today with him I want to dig into why is it that even once we've acknowledged it's not really guilt and we've decided not to do it all, that we can still backslide because we haven't fully committed to the decision. So let's dig into it. Brian, welcome back to the studio.
Yep.
Okay, so why is it that we go back on decisions that we've already made?
I think reason number one is you haven't actually made the decision. And by that, I mean you haven't completed the decision-making process. So I can have a want, or I can say things like, I want to do this. And that's a pretty light, like nothing's ever decided. Mm-hmm. You could say something like, I am going to, and that sounds a lot more like a decision, like, yes, this is what we're going to do, or whatever those, but that is still momentum of the decision. The true decision is not completed until I've acted in accordance to what I've said. I have to say the thing, and then what we call buy the decision. I'm acting as if I own that decision, and it's already done, which means all my actions after that are consistent with that decision.
Right. That is a beautiful world that you describe. But there are things that come up that are begging to distract us, begging to steal our confidence in that, begging to divert our momentum, not going according to plan. Like, there's all kinds of things that disrupt that. Because we all have this moment where we're like in front of our computer or on our phone or with our journal being like, dude, I'm doing this. But then life can and get us really distracted. So how do we show up in those moments in a way where we don't revert to defensive postures, but stay super proactive?
So a defensive posture occurs when somebody feels threatened. In other words, to play defense, there has to be offense being played against me. So if we say, here's all the distractions, here's all the attacks, here's all those things, something triggers that defensive posture completely. But a lot of times it's internal. I have decided this, and in my head, I start thinking about these things, and that's going to be a little bit of shock. It's going to be a little bit of fear. It's going to work its way to depression. And those are all sort of the first signs of you're going through a change. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is people get these inputs and they start to go, wow, my emotions, and it's getting hard, and I'm getting scared, and I'm getting depressed, and what if I made the wrong decisions? All of those are natural behaviors that are actually on the way to growth. And that is where sabotage starts to set in, because people will go, oh my gosh, I'm depressed, I made the wrong decision, instead of going, perfect, I'm depressed, I'm on the right track. Because you're going to go through those things. You're going to question the big changes. Now, little decisions like where are we going to dinner, you might do it like you order something and you're like, I don't really like it, I'll eat it. Nah, it wasn't so bad. Like little things, you still go through the same cycles, but the bigger decisions and the more important decisions, and where we're talking about purpose and life priorities and this is what I'm committing to, those things are going to come with all this fear of I've done the wrong thing.
Well, I think those moments of fear and depression and the sort of environmental friction puts us in these cycles of like redecision. Like, how do I get myself back to comfortable? I think oftentimes the first reaction, is that true?
Yeah, because we want comfort. We want to return to comfort, but growth comes through discomfort. When you were growing as a little kid, you had like growth spurts and your legs would hurt and stuff. Like, it hurts to actually grow. And so when people feel this discomfort and they're like, wow, this is really hard and I'm going through a lot right now, it's like, yes, you're on the right path. This uncomfortable thing means it's good. Most people will clock out and say, no, I'm not doing it. It's too much discomfort. And they will revert and undo that decision in a second.
Totally. Or I find myself like, if I've set some quantitative goals, I will find myself wanting to fiddle with the scoreboard to put myself back in the winner's chair. Like, I'm feeling behind, this looks impossible. I'm like, I just need to change the scoreboard. My goals were too aggressive. Like, I don't like how this feels.
Right. And when you change the scoreboard, you now have no progress towards your goal. Regret comes from not doing something I wanted to do. So when you change that scoreboard, you are now opening yourself up to regret, because even if you achieve the new scoreboard, you're going to, at the end of that, go, but it wasn't what I set before. I don't feel good about this. It wasn't what I wanted. You'll always feel bad after that. Whereas if you fell 10% short of the goal that you set, you would go, wow, look at my progress. Look at how far I've come, because it was worth it. So if we're not re-examining, why did I set this goal? Why did I set this decision? Why was this important to me? When you're going through that natural process of change, you're going to risk undoing it because you're not committing to the bigger thing.
So I think sometimes too, committing to the bigger thing is begging us to unchoose some things that we have today. And so we can get into this place where we genuinely want two things that just cannot coexist. Like, I want the comfort of where I am right now, and I want the monetary growth of tomorrow, or I want as much time as possible with my kids, and I say, like, take 15,000 steps today. It's like, well, you've got to decide, which one do you want more? Is that true or not true?
Well, it's absolutely not true. If I look through the lens of I go, well, I got to get 15,000 steps. My kids are bugging me. Let's go on a walk. And I'll put them through 15,000 steps too, because I get to spend time with them while I'm walking. Or if I want to have comfort and I want to have money, well, if I want to have comfort, do you want comfort now, or do you want comfort for a much longer time because you have money? So comfort can still be important, but which way do you want to get it? Because knowing which way I want to get it is what should drive that decision. If you want always feel comfortable right now, why don't you just sit on the couch, get under a blanket, and just lay there? You'll be comfortable for a long time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I want to take a quick moment to thank my partners at Share Your Genius. For the past 4 years, they have been an incredible part of my journey behind the microphone. Share Your Genius is a content and podcast production agency that helps leaders and brands bring their message to life. So whether you're trying to find your voice, develop a content strategy, or get your leader behind a microphone, they're going to help you make it simple, strategic, and impactful.
One of the things that's important when you're going to make a big decision is figuring out what you're going to say no to, because it does take a lot of no's oftentimes to protect the space for a really good choice, a really big priority, a really big decision. So how does that look? How do the no's play out?
Well, it's understanding that to make a decision work, it's not, I have to have a lot of no's. Almost everything becomes a no. Your life is actually not defined by your yes. Your life is defined by your no. So you get married, you say yes on the altar. Well, you say no to dating. You say no to other priorities. You say, in some degree, I'm going to say no to my family and what my family wants. You say no sometimes to, well, I wanted to live here, but this job took us here. I have to say no to this. Then you decide to have kids. Now you have all these other things that you have to, I can't go to the bar till 2 a.m. with kids as easily. I can't do all these, like, it's just no after no after no. So it's knowing that the more important a decision is to you and the more it aligns with your values, you're going to have a lot of no's, but all of those no's get you to the yes that you wanted to. So if you're unwilling to say no, it means either the decision wasn't important enough to you, it wasn't a big enough decision, or that you're just afraid of saying no, and then we're back to the guilt thing of, well, I'll feel guilty if I say no. oh, so other people are more important than you. You have to at some point say, what is important to me matters, and this is how I'm going to carry out my life. And you might not have the tools to do that. You may not know how to solidify that, but it all starts with, I have decided and I'm going to do the things required in order to make that decision work.
I picture like, you know, when you use a washcloth that's like super absorbent and it just like sucks up everything around it. And then at some point it can't take on its own chosen water because it's waterlogged by everything else that's soaked up. Or you have like something that's waterproof and it literally repels everything unless you like put it underneath something so intentionally. And that's the like word picture that's coming to mind when you talk about being so clear in your priorities that sort of everything starts with this like Teflon, like it just rolls off. Like, no, it does. It sort of start with, no, it doesn't fit because this is taking up so much of my energy and priority versus this washcloth that's got no finish to it and it just soaks up whatever is around it. Its life becomes other people's priorities. I remember when I was in the thick of it at the agency and you were in that journey with me too, where I realized I had to get to a spot where this company only worked if it worked for me. It only worked if it worked for my priorities. It only worked if it worked for my financial goals. It only worked if it worked for my career ambitions. I started it by saying, I want all of my people to be super happy. And when that was what guided me, I became so empty and misguided that I didn't actually have a rudder in any capacity because everybody else's 70 goals and priorities were the things that were deciding. As I started to say, this is what the business growth has to be because this is exactly what our family needs from it. And this is what role I want to play in it. Then everything came from that and it attracted people who wanted to go do that. Right. And so then everybody was aligned, which feels so obvious when you say it out loud, but it felt very noble to be a leader who was sort of working for their people. And it felt very noble to say, this isn't about me, it's about them. But it creates a rudderless environment.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that example is that when you're trying to please the 70, nobody's happy. When you say, I'm going to build this around the one, everybody figures out how to bolt onto that goal and then everybody's happy. Not only are they rowing in the same direction, but they're actually making it as this is my way to get to my goals if I do these things in this business, because this is what the business needs. And what I need is still important. So here I am, plug it in. And that's what gets them rowing, is because if the leader is saying, this is what's important to me, the leader is better at making sure that everybody else gets that need. But when the leader defers to the group, they deferred their agency and what they were going to do, and they don't know how to get everybody happy, which is why you pulled it in 70 different directions.
Totally. And in that situation where I have enough money, enough time, it's sustainable from an energy perspective, then I have excess to share with everyone. Right. When I don't have those things, I don't have it to share. And it's the same thing when we're leading our homes. When you feel like you're a priority and you feel healthy and you feel good about yourself and you feel like you have extra energy and joy and capacity to be able to share with your family, they then receive it and they have more to share with the family as well, versus you being this depleted, like shriveled prune of a human being trying to give anything to them. So it is kind of this like shift of when you put yourself in this sort of state of selfishness, you actually are in a capacity to give with more abundance. How would you summarize it?
I would change the word as self.
I know it's a gross word. I didn't like it.
I would use it more as, if my cup is empty, I have nothing to give others. So I have to always be focusing on filling my cup first so that I can give the rest to others. And as soon as I pour that cup out, I have to keep refilling it all the time. So you have to decide, this is what fills my cup. This is what I want it to be. This is all those things. And then go do all the stuff you want to serve others, take care of others, all those things. But when you do it the opposite way, you're just hanging out an empty cup and nobody, including you, is benefiting from that.
That's exactly right. So if a woman listening to this is saying, I feel like I'm an empty cup trying to fill others, how does she begin this journey of saying, I've got to get my cup filled first?
Well, sit down and decide, these are the things that would fill my cup. and start with a list of completely unrealistic. And then once you have the list of completely unrealistic things that you think would fill your cup, it could be crazy, like travel 10 to 12 times a year and get a massage every week and do this and do that. Like write that all down and then write the reason next to it why you can't do that. And I guarantee as you start to write those reasons you can't, at some point you're gonna go, wait, I could actually figure this out. Because that's how your brain is wiring, is you start with this I can't and then you stop. But when you have to put meat on that and say, well, why can't you? You start to figure things out and you'll realize that a lot more of that list is on there you could actually do if you put effort towards those things.
Why is it important to make it extreme?
Well, it's about setting the bar high. So if I'm here and I technically want to get to here, in order to figure out how to get to here, I have to go higher to that. I have to go above it, because when you were a little kid, you had all these dreams, hopes, and ambitions. You want to be a space astronaut. You want to be a nurse. You want to be a doctor. You had all these things. And somehow as you enter this adult stage, you start to apply realism. And realistic is not really a thing. It's just a excuse that you made for why you didn't do those things, or your choices changed, or something was different. So when you start dreaming about things, your brain starts figuring out how to give you those things and how to make sure there's possibility, and you start working towards it. And then you get all this momentum and excitement. If I did this and I do this and I can figure out this, and all of a sudden you're problem solving your way to an unrealistic thing that's actually realistic. I did this exercise with a client years ago. I said, we're gonna make a bucket list. And his bucket list was things like go to an Indianapolis Pacers game, own a home, go to the Indy 500, ride this roller coaster at Disney World. I was like, if you called 3 people, you could get tickets to any of these things. Like you could go tomorrow. And he goes, you can? It's easy. Like he had no idea, he'd never explored. And also on that list, he said, I want to lose 100 pounds in a year. We have go to the Indy 500 equals lose 100 pounds. And to him, it was momentous. But when it's like, oh, I just got to do this, he thought that was crazy that he could go to the Indy 500. It was crazier that he lost 100 pounds and he did all those things because he started to figure out and learn how to do it.
I had a conversation with a woman. I just want to talk about this goals thing a little bit, because if your cup is empty, understanding what you want actually can feel overwhelming. And one of the questions I ask often is, what's one thing that you wish you had in your life that you didn't? And one woman said, raised her hand, she said, travel. And I said, okay, well, why, do you not go anywhere? And she said, no, we do travel, but oftentimes it's to the same places because we have like family we have to visit, and that sort of takes our vacation days. And I said, well, what's really behind travel? And she said, I want adventure. And through the conversation, got her to understand it's adventure you want. Travel is your first idea for how to get adventure, but are there other ways you could explore this idea of adventure? And so I guess what I'm prompting in this is not only writing out your insane things, like I want to get a massage every week and how much does that cost and can I figure out how to do that? But also asking yourself, what's the spirit behind where my intuition is at? Like, cause she's like, the way to do that is to go to other countries. It's like, maybe, but maybe you could, like you're going to go to a Moroccan restaurant and you're going to find a Moroccan outfit and you're going to go with a Moroccan, like, it's just like,
or go take a hot air balloon ride at night. Like,
yes, exactly. Like there's all kinds of ways. And so I think oftentimes our first idea, our brain can be like, no, you can't. And if you really ask yourself, what is it I'm really trying to make happen in my life? Surprise, adventure, growth, that oftentimes you can find a way to get there, but it might not be your first idea.
Yep.
So awesome. Thanks, Brian, for joining me. Thank you guys for joining me in this episode of The Life of And. It is so important that we care about filling our own cup. And I think we have a role as women to police one another in this idea when we see one another walking around with an empty cup, that we don't join in the chorus that says, yeah, girl, me too, but we stop and actually say, can I help you understand what's important to you so that you can actually make that happen in your life? What do we unleash in our world and in our culture when that is the position that we're working from as women? So if you're interested in connecting with Brian or his team at Lushin, there is a link in show notes. He has been an incredible partner for me not only in my own growth as a leader, but in all of the businesses that I own. So thanks, Brian, for joining me, and thank you all for joining us this week in the Life of And.